Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for The Witcher Season 3 on Netflix. And this wasn't good. Now, and normally with my thumbnails you can kind of tell what kind of goes on. The reason this wasn't a double thumbs down was because of Henry Cavill and Jaskier in this season. They were the only good bits. Never mind the fact that for some odd and inexplicable reason, there are 8 episodes and Netflix decided to be like, you know what? We're going to drop like 1 through 6 and then 7, then like 7, no wait a minute, let me see, 1 through 5 and then like 6, 7, and 8. Yeah, that's what they did. They for some reason chopped it into 5 for 1 and then 3 at the back end, and I'm like, I'm not doing a review of almost an entire, almost the entire season, and then the last 3 episodes. So I just waited it and then binged it, and it kind of helped. Like, if you're gonna do week to week, do week to week. If you're gonna let people binge at their own pace, let them binge at their own pace. There's a reason I've got the jacket and my Game of Thrones shirt on, because this just... This is stupid. Like, it tries to be Game of Thrones level, but on a simplified, kind of uninteresting kind of way. Oh, another one. Graham McTavish as Dijkstra. He at least is pretty good as well in what his role kind of contains and everything, and what he's able to kind of do with it. But that's 3 of them, and again, after learning about, like, the process of making a streaming show, and also hearing there was an article about the producer talking about how they have to dumb it down for American audiences. It's like Game of Thrones was like a big one that we're trying to figure out the machinations of everybody. It spun out of control at the end because it's one of those rare kind of aspects where the showrunners knew how to adapt the material, but then they ran out of material. And instead of going on hiatus, they're like, we want to be fucking done with this. Understandably, I can understand that, especially with how Martin was making it, but that doesn't excuse what happened at the endgame process. So, also going into learning about how different it is for making a streaming show with the writer's strike, how the writing kind of goes down. This definitely feels like the executives are just like, we're doing whatever we kind of want. Do this shit. Because the core concept of The Witcher, they're monster hunters. We only get one main monster and then a mutated thingy that Geralt slays. And I don't need the whole season to be Monsters of the Week, okay? This is a thing where it's like if you had taken the show of Supernatural and you had somehow said, you know what? Here's the constraint. You only get 8 episodes. Of course they would just focus on the main story arc, and then you'd completely lose out on the brothers hunting things and saving people. Witchers hunt things and save people for coin and shit. You know what I mean? Like, because that had to be completely taken down into just maybe like 1 actual monster for them to get across the ferry, because that was their kind of passage for it. And I think that you need like 16, maybe 22 episodes, like 16 at least comfortably, to have Monsters of the Week kind of stuff to give you a kind of lull period to digest certain kind of things and see the machinations kind of hammered out, and maybe even link those monsters to overarching plots, though they don't need to be. If you can do it and it works, okay, value add, bonus, benefit. Don't try and force a round peg into a square hole. And this is just godly, like... Granted, it had been such a long time that I even forgot what was kind of going on from Season 2, which is another kind of thing of mucking about with making sure you've got the show on to certain kind of extents of being like, hey, here's a longer period. But everybody's looking for Ciri. Redania, the King Vizimir wants to marry her. So we got Dijkstra and Philippa pretty much trying to find her and figure that out and do that shit. That's pretty much their whole goal throughout the whole thing. Everybody else is also hunting Amir of Nilfgaard, and then that's about it. The weirdest thing is, there are attempts to do world building, but it just falls flat. I am not... This is weird because The Witcher 3 is one of my favorite games, RPG games too, that I've played. And I love the world, the machinations, the figuring out what's going on with what and how things will kind of work out. Here, it's just executed in such a poor way that the only one that I want to see, and the only characters that I really care about are Geralt, Jaskier, and to a lesser extent Dijkstra because of the actor. Now granted, I know him from the show of Outlander, and he was pretty good in that and doing other kind of things. I like the actor, and he's able, and also Preacher as the Saint of Killers. He can work with material. Now granted, he needs better material, but he's still able to do what he can. Cavill is Geralt. Them recasting him, that's the main reason I watched this. I'd be like, I'm going to give you the swan song, I'm going to get my last bit of your Geralt, and then fuck this shit, I'm out. And that's not a disservice to the other actors because they aren't given good content to work with. Yennefer is trying to teach Ciri as we're going through this because we started out this season. They're kind of going everywhere because everybody's trying to go for Ciri. And then Yarpen is able to get him out. And they're like working through all this magic. It's like, oh, okay, so she kind of sucks at all the rest of them, but fire magic's probably going to be the thing that kind of is her affinity. Spoiler alert, that works out towards the end of the season. And it's really kind of weird. She's trying to teach Ciri, but she's not really doing that. She's trying to teach her the consequences of her actions, but she's still in the midst of dealing with her pretty much fucking over, like, her getting, like, screwed over at this conclave, and then going back to the mages as Aretuza to try and, like, get them to teach Ciri and figure out who the mage is that's, holding the strings over Rance, who's hunting Ciri as well. And you're just like, alright. Oh, there was that monster too that was tracking Ciri at the beginning, because Rance used this one dude to send that after him. And the choreography for Cavill, fighting monsters and everything, and actually fighting everything, is great. Like, if you want me to get into the positives, Geralt's character and his fatherly demeanor over Ciri, trying to make sure this kind of found family works. His fighting skills utilized very well in his action scenes. He has the best action scenes. Ciri has the worst. And I put that down to the people that are choreographing her fights and teaching her and training her. Because there's only so much she can do. Like, she's younger. This is probably the first kind of action-oriented role that she's had that has transitioned to this much action because they're teaching her to be a witcher and everything like that. And they just don't do it well for her. Like, I know that it's hard to, like, teach someone stuff and everything, but you need to do that. You have to train them to do that. Cavill has done a lot of different kind of action series, and he takes the shit for The Witcher fucking seriously. Not saying that Ciri's doesn't, but Ciri's actress, like, I'm not saying that she doesn't. You definitely see that she is attempting to show the emotion and everything, but it takes a great actor to try and sell a shit thing going on, and they essentially have her be a dumbed-down Daenerys from Game of Thrones, i.e. she wants to break the cycle, she wants to help people, but she doesn't quite know how to do that and figure that stuff out. And the thing is, she doesn't have enough episodes for that stuff to be adequately executed. So I'm not going to go on her and be like, or do the kind of stuff that people did to young Anakin in The Phantom Menace. It's like, Ooh, there's a difference between writing an angsty teenager and then trying to get them out of that kind of angsty phase and get their character kind of nailed down, and then only thinking in the stereotypical way of like, oh, this young kid's got to be annoying as fuck. No, they don't. And then if you're the actor and you're pretty much giving that content and giving the director, like the director's like, I want you to act it like this. That's not on them. They did their job. Then you have to figure out, and it's always the nutty kind of thing when you're doing this kind of stuff, because she's just, I don't fault the actress for it. I fault the content, because if I close my eyes and just like listen to what's coming out, it's like, good God, can there be some other better way to do this? And if the writers don't have enough time to like go through and pass through the scripts and like actually iterate on them, because if any executive or any kind of person that is outside of like the creative process says, oh, if you've been doing this for years, you should be able to pump out a good script on one shot. That is fucking bullshit. Okay? Sometimes you could have the best fucking thing that you've written, no matter what. But sometimes you could get it better if you're like going through with it, seeing if things work or don't work, because then you can take it to like an actor and it just, you could have the greatest line of, I am the Velveeta of Mordor. And it's like, what? Okay. The thing is, it sounds good in your head, but then you have the actor that just can't fucking, you couldn't sell it for like 5 nickels and a corn cob. It's like, So they need to be in there to see this, and it's like, So I know I'm going more into the nuts and bolts of it, but that's because the nuts and bolts are very screwed over in this, because Ciri is just angsty Daenerys, and we're not even given enough time to even get to her. It's as if we started at season 8. And she's like, I'm gonna break them chains, break them chains, break them chains. And then at the end of the season, she's essentially competing with the sequel, so the sequence of violence and history repeating itself and doing all this kind of stuff. It's like, oh, you're just gonna do the same shit, aren't you? Fuck. I never got that kind of shit going on in the Witcher games. It's like, what? Now granted, I am gonna read the books at some point, but Ciri's character is just like, okay, like, they're focusing more on her magecraft. We don't even really see her doing that much training, except when she teams up with Geralt to fight this monster during their ferry passage as they're going to Aretuza. Yennefer pretty much tries to like pave the way for the Aretuza kind of stuff, but then Ciri gets introduced to some Aretuza sorceresses, and they're catty bitches. They're just like, they're perpetuating this cycle that was done upon them. Being like, girl, get me my wine and shit, and just like talking about all kinds of stupid ass bullshit. And I'm with Ciri on that. That at least is the main time I kind of line up with her. Like, granted, I do want her to change everything, and it's just like, I do line up on her objectives. It's just like, oh god, this is so uninteresting for me. It's just crazy. And then seeing that like Yennefer doesn't even understand that, let's like, you were doing the same shit to like Tissaia and everything like that, going like when you were training. It's like, oh my god. And then she kind of leaves, and the Wild Hunt makes an appearance for some fucking reason. Now, the Wild Hunt is trying to go after Ciri for power and from like another kind of sphere. Geralt just pops out of fuck all nowhere to save her ass, mainly because he'd been hunting Rience. He found this like mutated thing, and somebody was trying to make Ciri stand-ins, taking half-elven girls and making them think that they're Ciri. And the failed experiments turned into this, like, the Thing hybrid. Well, technically that's more from the Thing prequel, where, like, 2 things were... That's like, oh god, that was a good fight scene with Geralt. It's like, okay, that mainly comes in the end, where Vilgefortz is the mage that's behind Rience, and the thing is, like, they did the red herring of, like, Stregobor. He's a prick, and he's, like, racist against elven people. But we put him as the one that's behind Rience, but we find out it's Vilgefort, and we never even really get most of his reasoning or objectives for why he's betraying the mages of Aretuza, why he is siding with Nilfgaard, and what's kind of going on. Because we see this whole conclave that's trying to bring everybody together to fight against Nilfgaard. That was a horrendous episode of just doing all this back as we're essentially Ocean-style revealing the reveals. And then Stregobor gets captured, but then Redania makes its move to take over Aretuza, which doesn't make sense in any of their objectives because they were mainly going for Ciri to like solidify themselves as the dominant power in the north. I don't know why, really. I mean, I understand from kingdom kind of perspectives, but we don't get any other kind of kingdom perspectives. Only Redania and Nilfgaard. We don't get Temeria. We don't get any kind of other kind of place. Like, they fucking drop them, but it just... I'm going off of, like, the show, and it's just, what? I'm more interested in the stuff that's going on with, like, Jaskier talking with Radovid? Radovid, because there's that whole thing, they're trying to get Jaskier to get Ciri, and I like him trying to help people as much as possible, and dealing with his emotions with Radovid, but Radovid's just, he thinks that there's more behind Radovid, but there really isn't, before he then, oopsies, after the whole failed thing at Aretuza, because instead of Redania backing them up, Nilfgaard with the Scoia'tael and Francesca pops up when Fringilla pulls the Count of Monte Cristo, Edmond Dantes pretends to be dead and gets thrown out the castle. Like, I'm out, bitch, I'm out, bitch, I'm out, bitch. Now, granted, even though I'm not that much interested in her character, I liked her kind of celebratory thing of like, motherfucker, I got out this shit. Like, alright. And then she just helps them and like, oh my god, we need more episodes because Francesca's like, I'm going to get Ciri because she's going to help us with the Elven prophecy and, like, kill all the humans kind of shit. I'm like, listen, humans trying to kill all the elves, that's shit. Wrong. Fuck that shit. Elves trying to kill all the humans, that's shit. You're just going to kill each other and it's going to be done. It's like, oh my god. And that's pretty much the one-track mind. She loses her brother to it. The Kihir dude's brought back because he's like, hey, we can replace Francesca with this Scoia'tael dude. He's pretty cool. And Amir's like, fucking kill him. It's like, why? He actually has closer objectives to you than, like, her. What the fuck? Why? It's like, none of it's explained. And he just kills him and then they utilize Francesca and she goes and she fights the mages. And she uses some magic, but, like, it's been so long, I'm like, can she use magic? Like, alright. And her, she loses her brother during an attack, as they're trying to take Ciri, and Geralt's like, fuck off. They're in Aretuza, and her fucking husband gets fucking chunky cold Medina'd. That's what I call it, because he got exploded in front of her. She's like, ah! And then Tissaia is like, you motherfuckers! And she fucking, like, Thors and utilizes this, like, thunder spell that should have killed her, but it doesn't, and she just fucking runs around until she, like, works with Fringilla and Amir, and then she learns that Amir and Fringilla were part of what was going on, but she's like, I'm gonna take this deal, because Fringilla's like, we're gonna do this Game of Thrones shit. It's like, it's stupid Game of Thrones, but whatever, and she's like, nah, I'm gonna take the deal, and make sure and just utilize the Scoia'tael to kill them all, and, like, use them as a sacrifice to Amir. It's like, whatever. Fuck you. You don't give a shit about people. You don't give a shit about any objectives. Whatever. And then we see that Geralt's pretty much trying to escape with Ciri, but then his medallion hums, but that should mean that a monster's nearby, but that just, for some reason, is supposed to signify Vilgefortz, as he then fights him, and then gets his ass completely not only whooped. Now, Geralt getting whooped doesn't, I'm not adverse to that. Like, there are going to be things that Geralt's not going to be able to fight as effectively, and he needs to kind of train up, but he's pretty much laid out most of the rest of the episodes. Ciri then tries to escape. Yennefer goes to try and save Tissaia, so everybody's kind of, like, scattered, and then we find out that, for some reason, the tower at Aretuza has a fucking monolith thing in it, and she, like, activates it and fucking throws Vilgefortz out the fucking hoo-ha, and the tower collapses, and I'm thinking, you people know what these fucking monolith things kind of resonate when Ciri's nearby, and it's doing some weird funky ass shit. She gets fucking teleported to some place that is actually within the realm of The Witcher, but I thought she would probably get tossed into some other kind of multiverse because there's a multiverse. That's how everything kind of worked in the Witcher series. That's how humans came, the spheres colliding and everything like that. But she's in the Witcher world. I'm like, alright, that's fucking stupid. I'm trying to think if I'm losing anything else. Monster on the ferry, good fight scene. Geralt get his ass whooped and then got taken and pretty much laid out. Then we get one episode devoted to Ciri of her hallucinating in the desert, her mother, her grandmother, and then this Falca woman before she figures out she can use fire magic and heals a unicorn, but it's probably not there. And we're seeing her trying to like war with all these different kind of things in her head, but it's like the most basic kind of shit that's really not that interesting. It's stuff that we'd already pretty much gone through and have been working throughout most of her character arc, so it just felt like a redundant, almost kind of filler thing before she's captured by bounty hunters, and then it kind of links up later on where she helps this one dude escape and the rats, and she this one woman that had stolen her like knife and purse or something like that beforehand, like helps her out, and then she fights this dude and kills him and calls herself Falca. It's like, alright, it's just and that's kind of where it ends. It's like, okay, Geralt gets healed by Yennefer and decides to then go beyond his neutrality kind of thing, helping these people against the Nilfgaardians and all of that. It's like, make your choices and everything like that, because that's a thing in the game and all that. It's just very disappointing. Jaskier's character development of trying to figure out Geralt and how to help him and playing the kind of games with Philippa and Dijkstra was interesting at least, but there's nothing that it really goes for. It's just kind of hanging there and just connecting characters for the sake of them to fill space, in my opinion, rather than actually actively executing a good kind of story and getting character moments, plot development, character development out of it. Jaskier is infatuated with Radovid for reasons. Like, I don't even get it. Like, mainly Radovid's interested in him. But I don't really see Jaskier's attraction to him. It's not that he wouldn't be attracted to him, it's just they don't sell it well enough in the show because it's not a core kind of aspect, and I don't know what the core aspect of this season was supposed to be. The anchor characters. The anchor characters for me are Geralt, Ciri, Yennefer, and Jaskier. And I don't mind the other characters around, but when they're just it's a disservice to the actors and the characters when they're putzing around. I'm like, I'm not interested in them, because I should be interested in them because you're spending time and all this kind of stuff on them, and it's just like, And the thing is, it's close enough. I could see them doing kind of things to get it there, and they attempt to do it because we have Jaskier pretty much with this one other woman that he pretty much cheated on, and they had like a fight in the street, and then they're back together, but she's like, oh, you got a crush on him, and it's like, but why does he have a crush on him? Like, I can see Jaskier having a crush on him, but I need Jaskier to sell that to me, and the thing is, they don't have enough fucking time and shit in the show to develop that, so that way I can fucking get there. Like, I can only fill in so much, and if I'm filling in so much myself, I'd rather fucking do it myself with a fan fiction, or playing the game, or reading the books, and seeing other kind of stuff with it. It's just like, any kind of other main things. It's just a mess overall. Like, I just went through most of the different kind of like higher level kind of stuff, but that's because most of it's just like nutty. When there's a cool three thing, like Rience was trying to get Ciri and Yennefer at the end, but then we see that Geralt had left his sword behind because Dijkstra had him at knife point. And Ciri tosses the sword to Geralt and he just beheads him in one smooth motion, and it was just fucking badass. And that was the end of Rience. And I'm like, I can dig it. Because there's nothing much else done with him throughout here other than the stalking. Okay. The stalking enemy from like any kind of horror game or whatnot. And then that's kind of even replaced in this season with the Wild Hunt that just randomly pops up. Like, that should have been at the end, setting up for a big thing with the Wild Hunt as the next kind of bit. Because it's not just something you just throw and be like, oh, this will keep the fans happy. It's like, no. Because you don't have the context and the importance of it. Like, it's kind of like doing the whole stuff with Rhodey and changing him in Endgame. Like, on the surface, you'd think this would be a good thing. But you're not thinking of the lore implications of what it means and how it'll affect the story going forward. Secret Invasion should not have been done as the series that it was. That should have been done as a whole phase of it itself for the MCU. I know this sounds kind of weird, but we'll connect to it. Just because you put something in and be like, oh, we got a Skrull that's a hero, and they've been that way for a long time. And it's like, you're taking away the emotional impact of Rhodey saying goodbye to Tony as he's dying. If you fuck up something like that with a story decision, that's not good. Okay? The whole phase could have been done with you going through and then finding out after Endgame, everybody disbanded and everything, and then we need a new group of heroes because we don't know who the fuck is a Skrull and who's not. I know that's kind of a weird spot to bring this up in, but you don't just plop something in and be like, it'll be for the fans, and they'll be like, ooh. It's like, do you understand the fans and why it would resonate for the fans? Because there are two options of how that kind of goes down. You've got Rhodey as a Skrull and fucking up Endgame. And then you have a great fan moment of Captain America wielding Mjolnir in Endgame. We have built up to that. That isn't just... That's a build-up moment of like, yes, we've got lore, we got all this stuff. We have Captain America wielding Mjolnir and saving Thor and helping his friends and his allies. Because it's built up and it's executed well. Okay? Execution is key. Just because you put something in that's like a lore bit or whatnot, that doesn't help out. Like, Destiny 2. We're talking about this veil, this important kind of thing and whatnot, and you don't explain it in the expansion it comes in on. You then explain it in the seasonal model because we didn't fucking explain the damn thing. Like the Wild Hunt. You just drop it and you don't explain its context of what it means of why it's going after Ciri. And I don't need it to be completely and utterly explained the minute it's introduced. But to have the importance of like, this is kind of weird. Why the fuck is this here? What's kind of going on here, man? And why would they be going after Ciri? That's a kind of build-up for the main antagonistic force that is going to be going after Ciri throughout the rest of her life. But, or at least that's what I got from The Witcher 3. Now, granted, I'll read it and see kind of what goes on, but I know this is a strange review, but the whole thing is, it mainly follows Geralt, Yennefer, and Ciri dealing with everybody trying to get after Ciri, and it's not really that interesting. Like, basic plot premise thing, it's like, okay, there should be some interesting intrigue and everything going on here. It's just like, no, we kind of go from place to place. We check it with some other characters, but the main kind of draw, the anchor that you really kind of want to see, Geralt of Rivia, Ciri, and Yennefer, we don't spend as much time as we'd like with them, and it's too short. Eight episodes was not enough for this. And I don't think any kind of subsequent seasons are going to make this any better. Yeah, look into, if you want to, that producer talking about it. I don't want to just do unsubstantiated kind of stuff. They did an interview with him and all that, talking about all those kind of things. Because I hate people just saying, oh, here's hearsay or whatnot and everything like that. And I'm just like, no, I don't dig with that. But when you're looking at this and trying to see how they're going to continue this, if it's going to, because Liam Hemsworth is going to be replacing Henry Cavill as Geralt of Rivia, and good luck to him on that, because that takes out the main draw for me, because he was the character. And I could kind of bear everything else around it because he was the character and he just drew me into the world. But you take that out and have all the rest of the problems. If this season doesn't kill The Witcher and they cancel it, 4 is going to do it. Because you won't have Cavill to sell Geralt. Now, does that mean Liam Hemsworth is going to be horrible? I don't know. I don't know how he's going to act as Geralt. It's just, I've got this dude that I've run with for 3 seasons. I'm like, I really like him as Geralt, and there's other kind of problems that aren't inherent to him and the character. So it's like, I don't think that they're going to learn the lessons that they need to, because at least we got into a more chronological order from the first season. It's like, what the fuck? Granted, that was a ballsy kind of move to do, and I don't think it worked quite well until we got everybody together. And then it's just like, oh, okay, let's kind of see how this kind of works. I don't know, man. They do have plans for other seasons, but we'll see how well that works out. Especially because we don't know how these models work out that well. Because I would have thought that they would have better splitting and everything with residuals, but learning everything from the writers and actors strikes, residuals on streaming shows are fucking worse than like TV shows and shit. And TV shows have been outdated with that certain kind of model as well, split-wise. It's like, yes, you need people to be in these things, to act these things, to write these things. If you don't have that, I don't care how big of an executive you got. You don't have shit. You need the actors. You need the directors. You need the writers. You need the prop people. Okay, another good positive of this, the costuming was on fucking point. Alright? Sets a little bit, but the costuming, you people, yeah, fucking awesome. There's a lot of interesting, different kind of colors and kind of cuts and choices and everything. I know that's kind of a weird thing to just talk about randomly, but I dislike completely shitting on something and getting angry about things and everything like that. That's why if I get to a certain point on a certain thing, I'm just out. I'm not here to do that. I want to talk about problems so that way they can be resolved, and if I don't really see that happening, I just go out. And I'm not gonna, like, okay, that's fine. I'm just not part of the audience. I'm fine. Okay. And if people like it and have fun with it, and if you like this season, power to you. I, again, never want to take that away. And I love gushing about things because it's important to tell people what they've done right as well as what they've done wrong. Because it's like, yeah, this is good. This is awesome. Keep doing this. And so that way they can keep that in mind, understand what's good, how they can improve on it. That's always my goals with these reviews. And also to talk about it with other people, see if they bring another view to the table that kind of changes my view, or if I do that for them. All those kind of things. I'm not here to be asshole Debbie Downer, fucking rage, outrage, fuckity-doo-dah, fuckity-day. I don't need that. Nobody needs that. I'm just disappointed and trying to be like, there are better ways for your time, but if you're into Henry Cavill and you like his Geralt, pretty much just watch his sections. You like, just like fast forward through any of the other ones if he's kind of your anchor for it, and just give it for him for that, because he does good with this, even though they fuck him over of how they kind of send him out. It's not the worst, but I mean, they didn't kill the character, but it doesn't make sense of like, how is he going to get recast? Now, granted, they could just essentially do what they did with Rhodey in Endgame, not Endgame, Rhodey and Iron Man 2, and just be like, listen, deal with it. Yeah, we don't want to scrollify this fucking shit. I don't acknowledge that. I'm just like, so weird, so crazy. So, those are my opinions on the season. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.